everybody, it's Teresa with ReSticksIn.com, and today we finally get to the ornament that is probably my very favorite one on the tree this year. I'm just completely in love with it, and it is this miniature Earflap hat. I think it is so cute. I want to make one for like all the little newborn babies in my life. I think it's so sweet. And it's an extra great surprise for me because it's one of those things that just popped into my head one day. And I thought, I wonder if I can figure out how to make that. And then once I did, it was just like, it was so much cuter than I even could have imagined. I'm just in love with this little project. So you don't need a pattern for this, believe it or not. It helps that we don't have to worry about fit again. It doesn't matter if this ends up too small to actually go on anybody's head. And as long as it has a basic shape you can recognize as an ornament, you're just fine. So I've got all the steps here to walk you through, and even if you have never sewn anything before, you can absolutely make this. So here's the pieces that you're going to need. You'll need 2 different colors of polar fleece, 4 pieces in the exterior color cut to 3 inches by 4 inches. You'll need 4 pieces in the interior color, the same size, 3 inches by 4 inches. You'll need 2 pieces in the exterior color that measure 3 inches by 3 inches, and 2 pieces in the interior color that measures 3 inches by 3 inches. You will also need some pom-poms on a string that look like this. So if you've watched the pom-pom tutorial video, you know exactly how to do this. And all I did to make this is I did it on my 1 finger, and I wrapped the yarn around 50 times. And I counted 50 times to make sure that both pom-poms would be about the same size. So 50 times, and then you tie it through and leave yourself a good tail so that you've got plenty to work with when it comes to sewing. You'll also need an ornament hanger, and I just used a little loop of yarn out of the same yarn as I made my pom-poms. And so I'm just showing you this as an example. It was about that long, so that's maybe 6 inches. So another 6 inches of yarn for your ornament hanger. Okay, so now this is what your pieces will need to look like ultimately, is this little cone shape. So all we have to do to get that is take one of your 4 by 3 pieces and fold it in half. And then about halfway down, start there and curve into the top. Like that. So you don't want it pointy, you want it kind of at a loop like that. I might be able to come in a little bit more because that's a lot of flat space there. There you go. Okay, and that's it. See how unscientific that is? So now I'm going to use this shape to cut all of my other 3 by 4 pieces. It doesn't matter what type of cone shape you make as long as you're consistent. So I'll cut that to all of those 3 by 4 pieces, the interior and the exterior. And then with my 3 by 3 pieces, I'm going to need to do the same thing. These will be the ear flaps. So I'm going to cut this in half, or I'm sorry, fold this in half, and then cut this way. Now, I made this mistake once. You want to make sure that where you're cutting is the raw edges. You do not want to cut the fold, because then you won't have a cone, you'll have like a little W. So cut the edges, not the fold, and go around like that. Okay, that looks like a nice little ear flap shape. So now I used those as my pattern pieces and cut all of my pieces the same size. Here's the exterior pattern pieces all done, and so the outside will be blue, and so 4 of those pieces I'll cut to curves, and then these are the ear flaps. So 2 of those cut with the curves, and then same with the interior fabric, 4 of those and 2 of those, and then we're ready to start sewing. So what we're going to do is match 2 of the curves together. So I'll have 2 sets here, and I'm going to sew from the bottom to the middle point, and don't go any further than the middle point. And I'm going to do that on both of these. So that will kind of make up half of our hat shape. And then we'll open them up and fold them together. And that will make the whole hat shape. So let me do that and I'll show you what that looks like. Here is one set of the curves all sewn together. So you can see how that makes one side of the hat. And here's the other. So to finish that cap, we're just going to sew both pieces together. You kind of match up those center seams and sew from the bottom all the way around to the other bottom. But before we do that, right here is where we have to include our ornament hanger. So this is the outside of my cap. Whatever color you're using, you're going to want to make sure that this goes on the outside part. Won't do you any good if it's hanging from the lining. And so you put both edges of your hanger poking up through that center seam like that. So with that in place, now we can sew, and then once it goes right side out, you'll have that hanger hanging out from the middle. See? Now it's starting to take some shape. Now for the lining, obviously you don't have to worry about the hanger, but there's a trick on that side too. You have to have a way to turn this cap inside out, or I guess right side out, so that you can hide all of your seams. So the way that I've done that is when I sew up the lining piece, I left a little finger wide section here open, so that this will be what I turn the whole thing right side out through. So I started sewing here, and then after about an inch, I stopped and just scooted the whole pattern piece ahead about another inch, and then sewed all the way around so that I'll have space there to turn it inside out. And since it's in the lining, I don't even have to worry about how I'm going to close it. Okay, so that's our cap piece. Now we have to add the ear flaps. So inside my little cap here, I'm going to match right sides to right sides. So I have to put my flap on the inside of the hat like this and just match it along one side and sew, and then do the same thing with the other one on the other side and sew there, and then you'll do the same thing for the lining piece. That is starting to look pretty darn cute. So now all we have to do is sew the two pieces together and turn it right side out. So with the right sides together, I'm going to take my lining and my outside and kind of fold them over each other like this, so that the exterior is on the outside with the seams out. So the seams will all be tucked nicely inside once we turn this right side out, but for the moment they're all facing out. And I'm going to pin this together in the corners so that it doesn't wiggle around too much on me. Because I left myself that gap here in the lining right here, I'm going to just sew all the way around the bottom, the ear flap, the bottom, the ear flap, and then it'll be done, and I can turn it right side out through there. But before I start to sew, while I'm still pinning, I have to include my pom-poms. So here's my little pom-pom, and what I'm going to do is shove this down in between the two layers with a little tail poking out through the ear flap. And then once we turn this right side out, it will pop out just where it's supposed to. So before I put that in, you're going to want to make sure that you measure it so that it's the same size as the other one. And a good rule of thumb is that it should reach the top of the hat, so that if you want to tie the ear flaps up like this, you've got room to do that. But then it won't be too long if you want to let them hang loose too. All right, so I got to put in one more pom-pom and sew all the way around, and then this baby is done. All right, so I've turned it inside out, and then you just have to tuck the lining right back inside the hat, and there you're done. So, and then don't forget to cut your pom-poms into actual pom-poms instead of just rounds like I had for a long time. And I just think it is adorable. I just want to make this for like every newborn I know, every puppy I know. I think it is just the very cutest possible thing. So you can leave it down like this with the pom-poms hanging, or put the flaps up by tying the pom-poms together. And I think I'm gonna put a couple of both on the tree. I think that they are just charming. And I might even make a big one to be the tree topper because I'm in love with it so much. So thanks for watching. I hope that you get a kick out of these and feel inspired to make something today. And be sure and subscribe to the channel so you see all the rest of my great ideas for a cozy Christmas tree. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.